There are moments in your life when reality feels thin, a sudden stillness in the middle of chaos, a strange alignment of events so perfect it feels scripted, a dream that bleeds into the morning, leaving behind a taste of somewhere else, somewhere you can't name yet you know. You dismiss it as coincidence, as a trick of the mind, as just one of those things. But what if these moments are not random glitches, but signs that you are already living in a reality far beyond the one you think you inhabit? What if the three-dimensional world you see, the solid walls, the ticking clocks, the predictable rules, is only the surface layer? And what if right now, without your conscious awareness, you are existing in higher dimensions? Layers of reality where time folds in on itself, where thought shapes matter instantly, where your soul remembers everything it has ever been. We are taught to believe that reality is fixed, that we are anchored here in the third dimension, moving linearly from past to future. But this is not how ancient wisdom described the human experience. From the mystics of Egypt to the sages of India, from the hidden Kabbalistic texts to the whispered teachings of the Sufi orders, the same truth emerges. You were never only here. The body you wear is tuned to the density of the physical world. But the consciousness inhabiting it? That is another story. Consciousness is not bound by the limits of space or time. It moves fluidly between layers of existence, some so subtle that your waking mind cannot grasp them. Yet your being still dwells there, lives there, learns there. The strange familiarity you feel in a place you've never been, the sensation that you are watching yourself from outside your body, the instant connection with a stranger you meet for the first time. These are not accidents. They are fragments of higher dimensional awareness bleeding into your daily perception. They are reminders that the map of your life is not flat. It is vertical, stacked with levels you are already traversing, even as you make coffee, pay bills, and check your phone. This is not a theory to believe in. It is an invitation to remember. And once you remember, everything changes. Because the truth is, you are not on your way to higher dimensions. You have never left them. The human mind is designed for survival, not for truth. It takes the infinite complexity of existence and compresses it into something manageable, something we can navigate without being overwhelmed. We call this compression reality. But what we experience as solid, linear, and reliable is not the full picture. It is an interface. Imagine wearing a headset that filters out 95% of the data around you. You would believe that the tiny fragment you can see is all there is. The walls would feel solid, the clock's ticking would seem absolute, and the horizon would appear to be the limit. But the headset is not reality. It is a translation. And translations always leave things out. Your body is that headset. The senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, are not complete channels of truth. They are narrow funnels, tuned only to the frequencies your physical form can handle. They are survival tools, not full-spectrum receivers. Modern science confirms what ancient mystics already knew. The electromagnetic spectrum is vast, yet human eyes see only a tiny slice of it. There are sounds beyond our hearing, forces beyond our touch, dimensions beyond our comprehension. The fact that we cannot perceive them directly does not mean they do not exist. It simply means we are not tuned to them. Or rather, the body is not tuned to them. The consciousness inside the body is another matter entirely. Think of the dream state. In a dream, you move through landscapes, interact with people, and experience events that feel utterly real while you are inside them. The laws of physics bend. Time becomes elastic. You can fly, breathe underwater, or speak with someone who has been gone from the physical world for years. The dream dissolves upon waking, but its reality in the moment is undeniable. Where is that place? What dimension are you inhabiting when you dream? And if you can be there for hours at night, what makes you so certain that waking life is the primary reality? The ancients warned us against this certainty. The Vedic sages called the physical world Maya, not illusion in the sense of being fake, but illusion in the sense of being incomplete, a partial truth. Plato spoke of shadows on the wall of a cave, mistaking them for the whole of reality. Hermetic philosophy described the material plane as the lowest rung of a ladder, with higher rungs invisible to the untrained eye. And yet, here we are, so immersed in the density of 3D life that we forget we are climbing that ladder every single day. The third dimension, as we experience it, is a construct. It is a realm of depth, width, and height, bound by the perception of time as a linear flow from past to present to future. It gives us structure, boundaries, and a consistent playing field in which to learn and grow. But it is not the full theater of our existence. It is more like one stage in a vast, multi-level building. Think of it like this. Your life is happening in a skyscraper, but you have been convinced that the lobby is the entire building. The lobby is comfortable, it is familiar. You know where the reception desk is, where the elevators are, where the doors lead out to the street. But you never push the button for the higher floors. You never wonder what's on the 15th floor, or the rooftop, or in the hidden mezzanines between. And yet, every so often, the elevator doors open for just a second, and you catch a glimpse, a vision during meditation, a moment of deep déjà vu, a feeling of being watched by a loving presence you cannot see. The doors close again, and you dismiss it. But those moments are not hallucinations. They are reminders. Linear time is one of the strongest illusions of the 3D paradigm. We believe we are moving through time like a passenger on a train, watching the scenery pass in one direction only. The past is behind us, the future is ahead, and the present is a fleeting instant in between. But in higher dimensions, time is not a line. It is a landscape. You are not moving through it. You are standing in it, surrounded by all moments at once. What we call the past and the future are not gone or not yet. They are coexisting layers you can touch when your awareness expands. This is why some memories feel more like places than events. You don't just recall them. You step into them, feel their texture, breathe their air. This is why the future sometimes bleeds into the present. A sudden knowing, a vision, a dream that later unfolds exactly as you saw it. When you accept that the 3D world is not the whole story, something profound happens. The boundaries start to dissolve. Your senses sharpen in unexpected ways. You notice patterns you were blind to before. Synchronicities multiply as though reality itself is speaking to you in a language only you can understand. But here's the paradox. You do not need to escape the third dimension to experience the higher ones. You are already inhabiting them. The shift is not about leaving this reality, but about expanding your perception to include more of what is already here. In truth, you are like a radio capable of picking up countless frequencies, but for most of your life, you have been tuned to only one station. The higher dimensions are not elsewhere. They are other stations broadcasting simultaneously. All you need to do is turn the dial, and this is where the teachings of the ancient wisdom keepers become invaluable. For they not only told us that these higher layers exist, they left us maps, keys, and practices for moving between them consciously. When most people hear the phrase higher dimensions, they imagine distant realms somewhere up there, glittering ethereal spaces, glowing cities of light, or alien-like parallel worlds separated from us by vast distances. It is a seductive image, but it misses the essence. Higher dimensions are not somewhere else. They are not hiding behind the moon, nor do they require traveling millions of light years to reach. They are here, interwoven with this reality, occupying the same space but vibrating at a different frequency. In the language of physics, dimensions are parameters, degrees of freedom, the axes along which reality unfolds. The third dimension gives us height, width, and depth. Time is often spoken of as the fourth dimension. But when mystics speak of higher dimensions, they are not merely counting axes. They are speaking of layers of existence governed by different rules, each revealing aspects of reality hidden to the one below. In these layers, space and time are not fixed constraints but malleable qualities. Thought is not separate from matter, it is its architect. Identity is not confined to a single form, it is fluid, capable of expansion, division, and union. You are not one thing moving through a rigid grid. You are a point of consciousness that can inhabit multiple layers of that grid at once. Imagine a sheet of music. If you look only at the printed notes, you might think the song exists solely in ink and paper. But the moment those notes are played, sound emerges. Something entirely different in texture and nature, yet inseparable from the page. The page is the third dimension. The sound is a higher dimension. They coexist. One is the container, the other the living expression. Ancient cultures grasped this truth intuitively. The Egyptians spoke of the duat, the hidden world interlaced with the physical one, not a place of the dead, but a continuum of being that the living could enter through ritual and awareness. In the Vedic tradition, the many lokas were not other planets, but planes of consciousness, realms that could be accessed here and now through meditation, mantra, and yogic mastery. The Kabbalists mapped the four worlds, Asaya, action, Yetzirah, formation, Braya, creation, and Atziluth, emanation, as simultaneous levels of reality, each nested within the other like the layers of a cosmic seed. Even modern Sufi mystics speak of Malakut, the imaginal realm, Jabarut, the realm of power, and Lahut, the realm of divine essence, all existing alongside the physical world. In these descriptions, the so-called higher dimensions are not inaccessible heavens. They are subtle realities continuously flowing into and through the visible world, like a deeper current beneath the waves of the sea. To step into these layers is not to travel outward, but inward, and the vehicle is not your body. It is your attention. Wherever your attention rests, your consciousness follows. And where consciousness goes, the doors between dimensions begin to open. One of the clearest ways to understand this is through frequency. In science, frequency is the rate at which something vibrates. The faster the vibration, the higher the frequency. A hummingbird's wings beat at a frequency too fast for the human eye to follow. Yet it is happening right there in front of you. In a similar way, the higher dimensions vibrate at frequencies beyond the default perception of our senses. We do not see them, not because they are absent, but because we are not attuned. Think of radio waves. Right now, your space is flooded with thousands of signals, music, news, conversations, all layered invisibly in the air around you. Your radio can tune into one station at a time, translating a specific frequency into sound. Change the dial, and you enter a completely different broadcast, even though nothing physically moved you there. You are the same. The dial is your consciousness. Shift it, and you are suddenly aware of a higher frequency of reality that was always here. You have not left the third dimension. You have expanded into a broader bandwidth that includes it. And this is why you can experience glimpses of higher dimensions without any ritual, tool, or technology. It happens in flashes. In the instant you sense someone's thoughts before they speak. In the moment your entire body tingles with the certainty that you are exactly where you need to be. In the way time seems to slow or stretch when you are in deep flow or facing a life-altering event. These are not hallucinations. They are your perception brushing against another layer of the cosmic fabric. Higher dimensions are also not uniform. Just as the third dimension contains countless landscapes, cultures, and experiences, so do the layers above. Some are luminous and harmonious, resonating with truth, beauty, and pure creative force. Others are more chaotic, unstable, realms shaped by collective thought forms and archetypes, where clarity is needed to navigate. Mystical traditions warn that entering these spaces without preparation is like wandering into a foreign land without a map. You may encounter dazzling beauty or deceptive illusions, both equally convincing to the untrained mind. This is why the ancients wrapped their teachings in symbolism and initiation, not to hoard the truth, but to ensure the traveler knew how to discern. The important shift here is to understand that you do not graduate to higher dimensions after death or after lifetimes of spiritual work. You are in them right now. Your dreams, intuitions, and deep meditative states are not practice rounds. They are direct participation. Your soul is not trapped in 3D waiting for liberation. It is multi-resident, living in multiple strata of reality simultaneously. When you begin to integrate this truth, life itself changes texture. You stop seeing spiritual practice as an escape from ordinary life and start seeing ordinary life as a bridge to extraordinary perception. The mundane becomes mystical. The act of walking down a street, speaking to a friend, or sipping tea becomes a moment in which higher and lower dimensions meet. And you are the meeting point. This is the real awakening, not to flee the world, but to stand in it as a conscious traveler of many realms. If higher dimensions are already here, woven into the very fabric of your existence, then the question becomes, how do you know when you're touching them? The truth is, you've been slipping into them your entire life. The signs are everywhere, hidden in moments you've dismissed as quirks of the mind or fleeting emotions. But if you learn to recognize them, they reveal an undeniable truth. You are not a flat being in a flat world. You are a multidimensional traveler. Let's start with the phenomenon of synchronicity. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and within hours they call you. You open a random book, and your eyes land on a sentence that answers the question you've been silently carrying for weeks. You keep seeing the same number sequence over and over, 1111, 333, 717, until it feels like reality is winking at you. These events defy the neat cause and effect chain of the third dimension. They feel like the edges of reality bending inward to meet you, as if an intelligence beyond your own is arranging things for you to notice. And that's exactly what's happening. In higher dimensions, time and space are not barriers. Thought, intention, and event are entangled in ways our physical senses can't fully parse. When you experience synchronicity, you are glimpsing that entanglement. You are brushing against the higher weave where all things are connected in a living now. Then there are dreams. Not just the ordinary dreams where your mind replays the day's events in strange metaphors, but the ones that feel like visits. You meet someone and wake up knowing things about them you couldn't possibly have known before. You travel to a place that feels more real than the city you live in, with streets and landscapes you could map from memory. You speak with a loved one who has passed, and their words carry a weight and clarity that no waking conversation ever could. In these moments, you are not imagining. You are operating in another layer of reality, one where the rules are different, one your waking mind cannot hold for long, but your deeper consciousness remembers. Another sign, the collapse of time. You sit down to work or create, and what feels like 10 minutes turns out to be 3 hours. Or the opposite, you are caught in a moment of awe, standing at the edge of a canyon holding someone's gaze, feeling the air before a storm, and time slows to a crawl. Every breath is stretched, every detail sharpened, as if the universe is giving you more of itself. This isn't just being in the zone, it's your awareness shifting to a higher layer where time is elastic. It's the same principle that allows near-death experiencers to witness their entire lives in a single instant, or athletes to make split-second decisions that feel like they had minutes to unfold. In those states, you are not bound by the linear train of 3D time. There is also the sense of presence. That uncanny feeling that you are not alone, even when you are physically by yourself. Sometimes it is comforting, a warmth at your back or a lightness in the air that makes you feel safe. Sometimes it is startling, like being observed by an intelligence you cannot see. In higher dimensions, presence is not limited to bodies in space. Consciousness can be shared, overlapped, braided together across layers. That presence you feel might be a guide, a loved one, another version of yourself in a parallel strand of reality, or all of them at once. And what about the instant knowing? When truth arrives in your mind without a chain of reasoning. You don't figure it out, you simply know. This knowing can be small, the sudden urge to take a different route home that ends up avoiding an accident, or vast, like a life-changing realization about your purpose. This is not luck. This is your consciousness syncing with a higher dimensional awareness where information is not linear, but whole. In that space, the answer and the question exist together, and you simply tune into it. Even your body has moments of higher dimensional awareness. The shiver that runs down your spine during a moment of beauty or meaning. The way your skin tingles in the presence of someone whose energy resonates with yours. The deep peace that floods you during meditation, prayer, or in the stillness of nature. Your body is not just a physical shell. It is an instrument tuned to multiple frequencies, and those sensations are how it tells you when you're touching something beyond the visible. Of course, there are the rarer, more dramatic events. Out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams, spontaneous visions. These moments are unmistakable. You find yourself floating above your sleeping body, looking down with a strange mix of detachment and recognition. You realize you're dreaming and decide to fly over a landscape that feels more vivid than waking life. You see an image in your mind's eye so clear, so potent, that it shapes your decisions for years to come. These are direct immersions into higher dimensional states, not imagined, not metaphorical, but actual experiences of consciousness outside the normal bounds of 3D perception. And yet perhaps the most profound signs are the smallest. The moments when you feel at home in your own life, when your choices align effortlessly, when you are so present that every step feels guided. In those moments, you are not trying to reach a higher state. You are already there. The truth is, you don't have to force your way into higher dimensions. You don't need complex rituals, elaborate technologies, or extreme conditions. You need awareness. You need to notice the thin places where the veil ripples. You need to trust the flashes of insight, the strange alignments, the timeless moments. When you stop brushing them aside, they multiply. They become a language, a personal dialogue between you and the layers of reality you've been inhabiting all along. And once you learn to speak that language, you realize there was never a separation. You have always been walking in both worlds. The only difference now is that you are finally awake to it. Long before quantum physics spoke of multiple dimensions, before mathematics modeled higher spaces, the world's spiritual traditions were already mapping them, not with equations, but with stories, symbols, and sacred structures. Each tradition used its own language, yet when you look closely, you find they were describing the same terrain. The Hermetic tradition is one of the clearest examples. In the Hermetic view, reality unfolds in planes: the physical, the astral, the mental, and beyond. Each plane is a level of density, a different vibration of the same underlying substance. The axiom, as above, so below, is not a poetic metaphor. It is a literal statement about the structure of reality. What happens in the higher planes reflects in the lower, and what happens here can echo upward. This is why ritual, intention, and thought can have effects that seem disproportionate to their physical causes. They are not limited to one plane, but ripple across several. The Kabbalah offers another map: the four worlds. Asaya is the world of action, our tangible material realm. Yetzirah is the world of formation, the subtle energies and archetypes shaping what appears here. Braya is the world of creation, the domain of the pure ideas and divine patterns from which all forms arise. And Atziluth is the world of emanation, the purest, most unified level, close to the infinite. These worlds are not places stacked vertically, but interpenetrating layers, present everywhere all the time. A mystic trained in Kabbalah learns to shift awareness from one world to another without leaving their chair. In the Vedic tradition, the cosmos is described as containing multiple loka, realms or planes of existence, each with its own qualities and inhabitants. Burloka is the earthly plane, where physical life unfolds. Above it, Bhuvarloka and Svarloka are realms of subtle beings and celestial forces. Beyond these are even higher lokas, such as Mahar, Jnana, Tapa, and Satyaloka, associated with deep wisdom, purity, and proximity to the divine. Importantly, these are not merely places one visits after death. Yogis and sages describe entering them during meditation, dream states, or moments of heightened awareness. The Sufi mystics Kirs describe a similar architecture. They speak of Nasut, the human world of form, existing alongside Malakut, the imaginal realm of subtle forms, Jabarut, the realm of pure divine power and archetypes, and Lahut, the ineffable realm of God's essence. In their vision, the journey to God is not an escape from this world, but a widening of perception to encompass all these layers at once. A Sufi adept walks in the marketplace with the same feet that walk in the gardens of Malakut, aware of both without confusion. Even in the Hare Christian mystical tradition, there is a recognition of layered reality. Early Christian Gnostics spoke of the pleroma, the fullness of divine reality, and the aeons, levels of emanation from the source. Medieval Christian mystics described ascending through the mansions or spheres of heaven, each representing a state of consciousness closer to divine union. These were never meant to be interpreted solely as post-mortem destinations. They were experiential realities available to the soul even in life. Among indigenous and shamanic traditions, the understanding is equally sophisticated. Shamans across cultures speak of the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world, not as good, bad, and holy, but as interconnected realms that together make up the full spectrum of existence. The lower world is a place of ancestral wisdom, deep earth spirits, and the roots of being. The upper world is the domain of guides, deities, and sky beings. The middle world is our everyday reality, but infused with the unseen. The shaman's journey is the art of moving between these worlds freely, bringing back knowledge and healing for the community. The Huna tradition of Hawaii teaches of three selves: the Unihipili, subconscious self; Uhane, conscious self; and Aumakua, higher self. These are not simply psychological categories, but distinct levels of being that interact constantly. The Aumakua resides in a higher vibrational reality, a dimension of clarity and guidance, yet it is accessible in moments of openness, prayer, and alignment. Across all these traditions, one thing becomes clear. Higher dimensions are not abstractions. They are structured realities, each with its own laws, inhabitants, and energetic texture, and the human being is designed to operate in all of them. What is even more striking is that these traditions often describe the same number of layers: 3, 4, 7, numbers that carry symbolic weight across cultures. Whether it's the 7 heavens of Islam, the 7 chakras of yoga, or the 7 planes of theosophy, there is a recurring recognition of a multi-tiered reality, with the physical as only the densest layer. The ancients left us these maps not just to satisfy curiosity, but to train perception. They knew that the danger of living only in the densest dimension is forgetting the rest. When you forget, you begin to believe that the material world is all there is, and in that belief, you shrink. Your choices become smaller. Your vision narrows to survival and comfort. But when you remember, the opposite happens. Your life regains depth and height. Events that once seemed meaningless begin to glow with hidden connections. You see that a conversation, a chance meeting, or a sudden intuition might be the visible tip of something vast unfolding across layers. In this way, the maps are not mere diagrams, they are invitations. To study them is to be reminded that you are more than a body in space. You are a consciousness with passports to multiple worlds, many of which you are already visiting without realizing. And the more aware you become of those visits, the more you can shape them and be shaped by them in ways that transform not just your spiritual life, but the way you move through the so-called ordinary world. If the higher dimensions are always here, layered within the very space you occupy, then what determines whether you perceive them or not? The answer is not technology, distance, or luck. The answer is consciousness. Consciousness is the only passport you need to cross between dimensions, but it must be wielded with awareness. It is the light you carry into the invisible, the lens that determines what you can and cannot see. And here's the paradox. Your consciousness is already multidimensional, but most of it operates outside of your waking awareness. Think of the human mind as an iceberg. The part above the water, the conscious mind, is small, concerned with immediate survival, logic, and managing daily life. Beneath the surface lies the subconscious, vast and fluid, storing memories, symbols, instincts, and a direct line to other layers of reality. Beyond even that is the superconscious, the level of pure awareness that is not bound to the physical body at all. When mystics and shamans speak of traveling between worlds, they are not moving their physical form. They are shifting which layer of consciousness they are operating from. In the third dimension, we are trained to identify almost exclusively with the conscious mind. This is why the higher layers remain invisible, not because they are far away, but because we keep our attention fixed in the narrowest possible range. It's like having a radio capable of tuning to 1,000 stations, but choosing to listen only to one. Attention is the steering wheel of consciousness. Where you place your attention determines which layer of reality you experience. When you are lost in anxiety, you anchor yourself to the densest frequencies. When you are absorbed in beauty, love, or stillness, your attention naturally rises, tuning you into higher vibrations. This is why certain states, meditation, prayer, deep artistic creation, profound awe, are such powerful gateways. In those states, the constant noise of the thinking mind quiets, and your awareness begins to spread beyond the 3D field. It is not that you go somewhere. Rather, the rest of reality comes into focus because you are finally looking in its direction. Many traditions have techniques to facilitate this shift. The yogis use breath control, pranayama, to adjust the body's energy currents, quieting the mind until the higher planes emerge naturally. Sufis use repetitive chanting, chikr, to synchronize the heart and mind with the divine presence, lifting perception into the subtle realms. The shamans use rhythmic drumming to induce a trance, bypassing the conscious mind and entering the imaginal worlds. The Kabbalists use meditative contemplation of sacred names and patterns to open the inner senses. What all these methods share is the deliberate movement of consciousness from its default setting into an expanded state. The key is not the method itself, breath, chant, drum, symbol, but the shift in attention it produces. The method is a doorway, the consciousness is the traveler. Here is something even more radical. You can move between dimensions in an instant without any formal ritual, if your awareness is sharp enough. It can happen in the middle of washing dishes, walking down the street, or listening to someone speak. A single moment of pure presence can pierce the veil. You suddenly see the golden thread connecting everything in your view, or feel the unmistakable hum of life behind the ordinary. This is why some of the greatest mystics lived ordinary outward lives. They were merchants, farmers, mothers, craftsmen. To an observer, nothing seemed extraordinary, but inwardly, they were moving fluidly between worlds, their consciousness spanning dimensions while they tended to their daily tasks. Of course, the reverse is also true. You can be standing in a place of great spiritual power, surrounded by sacred symbols, and experience nothing if your consciousness is closed. The space does not open itself to you because you are physically there. It opens when you meet it with the right frequency of awareness. Your consciousness is not just a receiver, it is also a projector. In higher dimensions, perception and creation are intertwined. What you focus on not only comes into view but begins to take form. This is why intentions matter so much in spiritual work. In the denser world of 3D, it may take time for intention to manifest. In the subtler layers, manifestation can be nearly instantaneous because thought and form are not as separate. And here lies the responsibility of multidimensional awareness. You shape what you encounter. A fearful mind will meet distorted reflections of its own fear in the subtle realms. A mind anchored in love will draw forth beauty and truth. This is why the ancients emphasized purification, not as moral policing, but as energetic alignment. When your inner field is coherent, you can navigate the higher dimensions with clarity and stability. In this way, consciousness is not just the key, it is the entire vehicle, the map, and the compass. Your awareness determines the altitude at which you travel, the clarity of the landscapes you see, and the kind of beings you encounter. Every shift in focus, every choice of thought or emotion, is a step across a threshold. The most empowering truth is this: you do not have to wait for special conditions to explore the higher layers. You are doing it already, every time your awareness expands, every time you remember there is more than meets the eye. The difference now is that you can choose to do it consciously, with skill, with intention. And once you learn to move between these layers at will, you begin to see life itself differently. The so-called ordinary events, a chance meeting, a sudden change in plans, a moment of stillness, are no longer random. They are movements on multiple boards at once, interactions between dimensions, with you as both player and witness. If we are already living in higher dimensions, if our consciousness is naturally multi-layered, then why don't we remember? Why is the awareness of this vast reality not the default state of every human being? The answer lies in what mystics call the veil of forgetting. The veil is not a punishment. It is not an act of cruelty by some distant power. It is a necessary part of the human experience in the third dimension, a safeguard, a filter, a tool for learning. Without it, the challenge of incarnation would dissolve, and with it the very purpose of being here. Imagine trying to read a single sentence in a book while every other sentence from every other book in the library is flooding your mind at the same time. You might have access to immense knowledge, but you would be unable to focus. The human experience is about deep immersion in the sentence of this life. The details, the relationships, the choices, the growth that can only happen when your attention is anchored here. The veil makes that immersion possible. It narrows the field of awareness so that you can engage fully with the game board of 3D reality. In this narrowed field, the challenges feel real, the risks feel high, and the emotions are vivid. You forget the other layers so that you can discover them again through direct experience, which deepens the learning in a way that intellectual memory never could. This forgetting also creates the conditions for free will. If you arrived in the world fully aware of every connection, every consequence, every layer of your being, your choices would be different, perhaps less experimental, less exploratory. The uncertainty of not knowing allows you to test, to fall, to rise, to discover your own alignment through trial and error. It is like a cosmic trust fall, where the forgetting forces you to develop inner strength, intuition, and discernment. But there is another reason for the veil, and it has to do with protection. The higher dimensions are not all serene fields of light. Just as the physical world has landscapes of beauty and danger, the subtler realms contain currents, beings, and structures of consciousness that require skill to navigate. Without the discipline of attention and the stability of a focused mind, you could wander into distortions or become overwhelmed by energies you are not yet ready to integrate. The veil ensures that your awareness opens gradually, in proportion to your readiness. Every tradition has its metaphor for this. In Hermeticism, it is the veil of Isis, the mystery that hides the face of the goddess until the initiate is prepared. In the Kabbalah, it is the Pargod, the curtain that conceals the deeper workings of the worlds. In Buddhism, it is avidya, ignorance, not as a flaw, but as a condition of embodiment that can be transformed through awakening. In the Vedic teachings, it is Maya, the play of illusion that veils the eternal so we can interact with the temporal. The veil is also deeply personal. It does not lift in the same way for everyone. For some, it thins through moments of beauty, love, or service. For others, it opens through crisis, loss, or near-death experiences. Sometimes it is pulled back suddenly, as in spontaneous mystical awakenings, and sometimes it erodes slowly like stone shaped by years of water. Have you ever had an experience so profound that it felt as if the world grew wider in an instant? As if colors were richer, air was denser, and everything hummed with a hidden life? That is a moment when the veil has thinned. It may not stay open, but the memory of it changes you. It becomes a reference point, a quiet knowing that there is more. Children often live closer to this state. They see and feel things adults dismiss, invisible friends, conversations with animals, awareness of emotions in a room. As they grow, the conditioning of the third dimension, the training to focus only on the visible and measurable, thickens the veil. But the sensitivity never fully disappears. It waits beneath the surface, ready to awaken when given space. One of the most common misunderstandings is that the goal of spiritual life is to tear away the veil entirely and permanently. But the ancients knew better. The veil is not meant to be destroyed. It is meant to become transparent. A fully awakened human can move between clarity and focus, between multidimensional awareness and the task at hand. They can operate in both worlds, seeing the larger pattern without losing their grounding in the here and now. If you think of life as a school, the veil is like the walls of the classroom. You need them to concentrate on the lesson, but you are also free to step outside when the time is right. The skill is in knowing when to look beyond the walls and when to keep your focus within them. This is why practices of awareness are so important. Meditation, contemplation, ritual, art, even deep conversation. These are ways of gently lifting the edge of the veil without tearing it. They train your consciousness to expand and contract at will, to step into the higher dimensions for insight and return to the physical with clarity. Over time, this rhythm of expansion and return reshapes your life. You stop feeling trapped in the third dimension because you know you can step beyond it whenever you choose. The veil is still there, but it is no longer an obstacle. It becomes a threshold, one you cross not by accident, but by choice. And this is the essence of awakening, not to escape the game, but to remember you are a player who can move between levels. The veil becomes a reminder of your courage, your purpose, and your readiness to see more of what has always been here. For many, the idea of living in higher dimensions conjures images of retreating from the world, meditating on mountaintops, spending years in silent monasteries, or abandoning the noise of modern life entirely. But the true art is not escape, it is integration. The goal is not to live only in the higher dimensions, but to walk in them while your feet are still firmly planted in the soil of the everyday. This is the path of the bridge being, one who can navigate both realms with grace, bringing the wisdom of the subtle into the tangible. The bridge being does not see the physical and the spiritual as separate domains, but as layers of the same living reality, each feeding the other. Integration begins with a shift in perception. Instead of thinking of spiritual experience as something that happens only in special moments, during meditation, in nature, or in ritual, you begin to see the entire day as a field of multidimensional contact. Every conversation, every gesture, every choice is a point where dimensions meet. When you speak with someone, you are not just exchanging words in the air, you are exchanging energy, intention, and resonance across layers. A single phrase spoken with presence can touch another person not just in their mind but in their heart, their memory, their subtle body. You may never know the full effect, but in higher dimensions, nothing is lost. Every act is recorded in the fabric of being. Even mundane actions carry this depth. Preparing a meal can be an offering, not just to the body but to the spirit. Cleaning your home can be a clearing of stagnant energy in both the physical and the subtle realms. Walking down the street can be a practice in perceiving the life force animating every tree, every animal, every passerby. This shift also transforms your relationship with time. In 3D, time is often experienced as scarcity, too little of it, always running out. But when you live between dimensions, you begin to see time as fluid. You learn to expand moments through presence. 10 minutes of true awareness can feel richer than hours of distracted living. This does not mean ignoring schedules or responsibilities. It means filling the time you have with the fullness of your attention, which naturally slows its pace. Integration also requires discernment. Not every moment calls for the same level of openness to the subtle realms. There are times when you need to focus entirely on the task in front of you, driving a car, performing a procedure, solving a technical problem. In those moments, you keep the higher dimensions in peripheral awareness, like a soft hum in the background, while you anchor fully in 3D precision. At other times, In reflection, conversation, or creative work, you can allow the subtle layers to come forward, coloring your perception and shaping your actions. Living between dimensions means developing the capacity to shift your state at will, rather than being pulled unconsciously by external events. This requires self-knowledge. You must learn the signals of your own system, how your body feels when you are grounded, how your mind behaves when you are expanded, how your emotions shift when you are out of alignment. In this state, your body becomes an anchor and your consciousness becomes a sail. The anchor keeps you connected to the physical, the tangible, the practical. The sail catches the winds of inspiration, intuition, and higher guidance. You learn to balance them, adjusting your course as the currents change. Another aspect of integration is embodiment. The understanding that your physical form is not a prison but a sacred instrument. Your body is designed to interact with multiple dimensions at once. The senses are not just for survival, they are gateways. Sight can be trained to see subtle light. Hearing can be refined to detect tones and vibrations beyond ordinary sound. Touch can register the texture of energy as well as matter. This is why many spiritual practices emphasize caring for the body, not out of vanity or discipline alone, but because a clear, balanced body is a more precise instrument for subtle perception. Food, movement, rest, and breath all affect the way you experience higher dimensions. Even posture influences the flow of energy through the body's channels, altering your capacity to receive and transmit between realms. Living between dimensions also means embracing paradox. In the higher realms, everything is connected and time and space dissolve into unity. In the physical, individuality matters, boundaries protect, and actions have tangible consequences. Integration is the dance between these truths, knowing when to dissolve into the whole and when to stand as a distinct self. This balance is also the heart of service. When you are rooted in the higher dimensions, your actions in the physical world carry more weight because they are aligned with a broader pattern. A kind word can ripple through someone's life in ways you may never see. A creative work infused with true presence can shift the energy of an entire space. A decision made from deep alignment can alter the trajectory of your own life and the lives of others. In this way, integration is not just a personal achievement, it is a contribution to the collective field. Every time you live in conscious connection between dimensions, you strengthen the bridge for others. Your awareness becomes a beacon, showing that it is possible to move through the physical world without being trapped by it, to engage fully without forgetting the unseen. Ultimately, living between dimensions is not about reaching a perfect state of awareness that never wavers. It is about remembering, again and again, that you are both here and beyond here, that every moment is an intersection of worlds, that the act of washing your hands, listening to a friend, or feeling the sun on your face can be as sacred as any vision or mystical journey. And perhaps most importantly, it is about joy. The joy of knowing you are not limited to one layer of reality. The joy of playing in the vastness of existence while savoring the intimacy of a single breath. The joy of walking in two worlds and realizing they have always been one. Living with multidimensional awareness is not about floating away from reality. It's about deepening into it until you can feel all its layers. To do this with balance, you need practices that expand your perception while keeping you anchored. Expansion without grounding can lead to disorientation, and grounding without expansion can lead to stagnation. The key is to cultivate both in harmony. The first and most essential practice is presence. It may sound simple, even obvious, but presence is the root from which all multidimensional perception grows. If your awareness is scattered, lost in memories, worries, or constant distraction, the subtler signals of the higher dimensions pass unnoticed. Presence is not just being in the moment as a cliché. It is an active, engaged awareness of your body, your senses, your surroundings, and your inner state all at once. It's like adjusting a camera lens until the image is sharp and vibrant. To cultivate presence, Choose one daily activity as a sacred anchor. It can be drinking your morning tea, walking to your car, or washing your hands. Each time you do it, slow down. Notice the textures, the sounds, the colors, the smells. Feel the way your body moves. Bring your attention to the smallest details. This is not merely mindfulness. It is training the mind to hold multiple streams of information at once, a skill that translates directly into perceiving higher layers. Another powerful gateway is conscious breathing. Breath is the bridge between the visible and invisible, between body and spirit. In every tradition, breath is more than oxygen. It is life force, prana, ruach, mana. When you breathe with awareness, you draw this life force through the channels of your being, clearing static and opening perception. A simple practice is the 4-7-8 rhythm. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8. This not only calms the nervous system but shifts you into a state where your awareness can stretch beyond the immediate. Body tuning is equally important. Your body is an instrument, and like any instrument, it needs tuning to play clearly. Movement practices such as yoga, tai chi, qigong, or even freeform dance align your physical, emotional, and energetic bodies, making them more sensitive to subtle information. Walking barefoot on the earth, lying on the ground, or immersing yourself in natural water reestablishes your connection to the Earth's own field, one of the strongest grounding forces available. For direct expansion, nothing is more potent than vibra, stillness, and silence. In the constant noise of modern life, silence has become a rare commodity, but it is in silence that the whispers of the higher dimensions can be heard. Even 5 minutes a day of intentional stillness, no phone, no music, no conversation, can open doorways. Over time, you will find that silence is not empty. It is filled with layers of presence and information you had been too loud to hear. Dream work is another bridge. The dream state is one of the most accessible higher dimensional experiences available to everyone, every night. Begin by setting an intention before sleep. Ask for guidance, clarity, or simply to remember where you've been. Keep a notebook by your bed and write down anything you recall upon waking, even fragments. Over time, patterns will emerge, recurring symbols, places, or beings, and you'll begin to recognize that your dream life is not random, but a continuation of your multidimensional existence. Creative flow is perhaps the most joyful way to expand awareness. Creativity bypasses the linear mind and taps directly into the higher layers where ideas already exist in their complete form. Whether you paint, write, cook, garden, or solve problems at work, approach your activity as a co-creation with the unseen. Notice how ideas arrive. Do they come in bursts, images, sensations? Follow them without overthinking. This strengthens your ability to receive and translate higher frequency information into physical form. Then there is attentive listening, not just to people but to spaces, objects, and the natural world. When you enter a room, pause and feel its atmosphere. When you hold an object, notice the sensations it stirs. When you sit under a tree, listen not only with your ears but with your whole being. In higher dimensional awareness, everything speaks, though not always in words. A less obvious but deeply transformative practice is alignment through integrity. Multidimensional access is not just a matter of technique. It is shaped by the quality of your being. If your thoughts, words, and actions are misaligned, your perception is clouded. Living with integrity, saying what you mean, following through on your commitments, honoring your own truth, clears static in your field and makes you a clearer channel for higher awareness. And finally, the most overlooked practice, joy as a frequency. In many spiritual circles, seriousness is mistaken for depth, but joy is one of the highest and most expansive frequencies you can embody. It is not superficial happiness. It is a deep delight in the act of being. Joy lifts your vibration effortlessly, making you naturally more receptive to the higher dimensions. Laugh often. Find beauty in small things. Let yourself be surprised by wonder. Grounding these practices is as important as doing them. After moments of deep expansion, reconnect to the physical. Eat something nourishing, move your body, engage in a simple task. This ensures that the insights from the higher layers can be integrated and expressed here, in the dimension where they can make tangible change. Over time, these practices blur the line between the spiritual and the ordinary. You begin to notice that the veil is thinner than you thought, that the higher layers are not occasional destinations but constant companions. And in that awareness, life itself becomes the practice. Every breath, every choice, every moment an opportunity to stand in both worlds and live as a bridge between them. If there is one truth that threads through every ancient teaching, every mystical vision, and every quiet moment of knowing in your own life, it is this: you have never been confined to a single layer of reality. The walls you thought were solid have always been permeable. The boundaries you believed separated here from there have always been illusions shaped by perception. You were born into a multidimensional existence, but in the narrowing of awareness that comes with human life, you forgot. You forgot that the same breath you take in the marketplace is the same breath that feeds the soul in the silent temples of the higher planes. You forgot that the love you feel in this body is only the shadow of the vast ocean of love your being is already immersed in. But forgetting was part of the design. It gave you the chance to rediscover. And now, with each moment of presence, each flash of synchronicity, each dream that feels more real than waking, the remembering is unfolding. The higher dimensions are not up or out. They are here, folded into the air you breathe, the light you see, the thoughts you think. You do not travel to them, you reveal them. They do not appear when you become worthy. They appear when you become aware. And perhaps this is the great irony. The moment you stop trying so hard to reach them, you begin to see that you have always been moving through them. The dream that visited you last night, the sudden knowing you felt this morning, the way a song seemed to speak directly to you this afternoon, all of it is the multidimensional fabric brushing against your awareness, inviting you to notice. Living in this awareness does not mean abandoning the human world. It means enriching it. It means carrying the clarity of the higher into the complexity of the lower, the stillness of the infinite into the movement of the finite. It means making breakfast while speaking silently to your guides, walking to work while feeling the hum of the earth's heartbeat, loving someone with the recognition that you have loved them across lifetimes. It also means humility. For every vision you receive, there are layers beyond it. For every truth you touch, there is a greater truth still veiled. The journey of multidimensional living is not about mastering the map. It is about becoming the map, allowing life to draw itself through you in ways the mind cannot predict. In this space, every action becomes sacred because every action is part of the same field. The way you speak to a stranger can ripple through their life in ways you will never see. The way you respond to your own thoughts can alter your frequency, changing what realities you intersect with tomorrow. Even the way you breathe in a moment of stress can shift the energy around you in ways that seem invisible, but are not. This is the quiet revolution. Not to wait for another world, but to live this one as if it already contains them all, because it does. So as you step away from this moment, remember, you are not learning to walk in higher dimensions. You are remembering that you already do. The doorway is not in the sky or the stars. It is in your awareness, opening with each breath, each choice, each act of presence. You do not need to rush. You do not need to prove anything. You simply need to look, not with your eyes alone, but with the fullness of your being. Look until the world begins to shimmer at the edges. Look until you can feel the hum beneath the silence. Look until the ordinary becomes luminous, and you recognize yourself in every layer of it. And when you do, you will realize that you were never here waiting to go there. You have always been here and there, always walking between worlds, always more than one thing at once. If this spoke to something in you, if some part of you feels the truth of these words, then carry it forward. Let it shape the way you see your morning, your relationships, your choices. Let it soften your fear and deepen your joy. And let it remind you, especially in the moments when life feels small, that you are vast. You are not preparing to step into the higher dimensions. You are remembering that they have always been yours. And if you are ready to keep exploring, if you want to walk further into this remembering, there are more journeys ahead. Here, we map the unseen, we speak the language of the soul, we explore the mysteries not as outsiders, but as those who belong to them. So stay close. Keep listening. Keep noticing, because the dimensions are already here, and they have been waiting for you to see them all along. If this journey moved you, I invite you to be part of this exploration. Like this video, share it with those who are also remembering, and subscribe so we can continue to walk between worlds together. And when you're ready for the next step, choose one of the videos waiting for you here. Each one a door to another layer of the reality you already live in.